Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the first ever Ringside mini podcast. My name is John, and I cover all things New Japan Pro Wrestling for Ringside Geeks. Joining me tonight is my co-host and fellow Ringside Geeks crew member, Monroe.
I'm a Ringside Geeker.
She's a Ringside Geeker.
Yeah.
And we are happy to welcome all of our amazing listeners to this very special edition of Ringside Geeks, dedicated solely to New Japan Pro Wrestling. So before we get started, some of you may be curious why there's an extra episode of Ringside Geeks on your feed this week. And it's all a part of our goal at Ringside Geeks to provide our listeners with the most in-depth coverage of everything professional wrestling. Unfortunately, there are times when that can be hard with the sheer amount of pro wrestling that there is these days. Mm-hmm. So you should be seeing these mini podcasts every so often, as well as other cool new features, like our brand new YouTube channel, which is coming later this week. And that's going to serve as a home for our weekly podcasts, as well as live reactions to events, among many other things. And again, that's all a part of our mission to bring you the best coverage of the world of professional wrestling that we can. So, Monroe, let's get started. Are you ready to talk some New Japan Pro Wrestling?
Oh, man, I'm so ready.
All right, well, I figure before we discuss the major Dominion event, we should look back at the Best of the Super Juniors tournament, which took place throughout the month of May and culminated, I believe it was this past weekend, correct?
Yeah, it was.
With the highly touted final between Will Ospreay and Kushida. So I'll throw this one to you first, Monroe. Give me a couple of standout performers or matches that you enjoyed from this tournament.
Well, okay. I'm going to start with the performers. You know how much I love Hiromu Takahashi.
Yeah, as do I, for sure.
This tournament just confirmed that for me. Mm-hmm. He was a standout. To me, really, he is one of the best in the company, and every match he had was just awesome. So he was definitely a standout. Kushida, who we both know always been good, had match after match after match that was just great, including the last one with Ospreay. So he really stood out to me also. But the one person I really want to talk about is actually Jushin Liger.
Interesting. Yeah. So if I were to go through and mention my own, I was going to point out Liger too, because that might have flown over some people's head because he didn't win a lot of matches. Right. But yeah, definitely.
Yeah, his story for this tournament was an awesome one. And I really wish there was a little bit more focus on it. I know that's not the whole point of the tournament or anything like that. You know, I get it. But for someone who is so legendary as Liger, and for this one to be his last one, you know, it really made it way more meaningful. And then for him to go out there, especially with that match against, I think it was it Takahashi, I want to say, from night 2?
Yeah, that was against, yeah.
He went out there and just threw it all out, you know, all on the line. It was amazing to see, and I think it brought the commentators to tears. But it was just, I got chills talking about it. But yeah, I think his story, a lot of people need to know about, and a lot of people need to realize that this was his last one. And he's such a great talent and such a legend in professional wrestling. And really, his story through this tournament was a highlight for me.
Yeah, I agree. Liger, I thought it was cool how they were kind of teasing he and Naito having a little bit of back and forth. I would love to see that match. I'd love to see Naito square off with Liger at some point down the road, especially before Liger finally calls it a day with his, and actually more so calls it a career.
Right. Gotcha.
But yeah, like you said, Liger's one of those guys who's always kind of been there, but it feels like he's been in the background unless you live in Japan. But anybody who knows Japanese pro wrestling knows Jushin Liger and how much he's contributed to pro wrestling in general. The guy's a legend. And I agree, he does deserve one last run. And honestly, I was kind of hoping they were going to give it to him with this tournament. Unfortunately, they went with the spoiler, so, you know, the whole screw Taichi thing came to fruition at the end. Yeah. But, I hope there's more in store for Liger. I hope we get to see him more in singles action. instead of just kind of thrown in the jambalaya tag matches in the opening of every card.
Right.
And yeah, like you said, Takahashi, holy cow, man. I mean,
Yes, I
we're
know.
going to get into our Dominion predictions later, but I got to tell you, I'm anticipating this guy making a move to the heavyweight division because he wrestles that high flying lucha junior heavyweight style, but
Hmm.
he's also got all the mannerisms and the charisma of a heavyweight. It's almost like it reminds me of Kenny Omega. I mean, some people would disagree, but I think that there are many parallels that can be drawn between those careers. And I'm hoping that happens sooner rather than later for Takahashi because, like you said, for me, he outclassed everybody in this tournament, and he proved why
Yes.
he is the best wrestler in the junior heavyweight division in New Japan Pro Wrestling.
And I think I may have to put him above Devitt and Omega.
Yeah, I mean, and it's pretty much because of this year in particular.
Yes.
Because you could almost make an argument for this guy for Wrestler of the Year this year with the amount of matches that he's had that have just been phenomenal. So,
Um,
yeah, I look forward to seeing what he does, not just to finish out this year, but going into next year and where he's at on the Wrestle Kingdom card could be very interesting. But let's get to the meat and potatoes. Let's discuss this final match. I personally thought this was definitely one of the better matches of the tournament. But that being said, I still felt like it had its flaws.
hmm
I'm gonna just put this out there now. I'm not a huge Will Ospreay fan, but this was one of his better matches for me. And I think that at the end of the day, the right guy won in Kushida. And I think it's the right story to tell heading into Dominion. But, maybe I just don't like the junior heavyweight lucha libre style. But, I saw a lot of match of the year discussion, and personally, I have trouble putting it in that conversation. How about you?
yeah, I feel the same way, especially when you have Okada and Shibata that happened this year.
Right?
No. When it comes to Osprey, I'm not really a fan either. You've heard me be critical of him. And it's not to take anything away from the guy. I mean, we cannot deny his talent. We cannot deny his athleticism. We cannot do that. But when it comes to professional wrestling, in my opinion at least, he's very one-dimensional, and it's becoming a little disappointing watching him wrestle sometimes. With that being said, the Kushida match, the last one in the tournament, was a very good match. It was a very good match. And it was definitely, for me, besides the one with Jay White maybe, but recently, one of the better Osprey matches I've seen.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And I give it 4 stars, and I know we don't really do the star thing, but I don't agree with the 5-star thing that a lot of people are saying, or even higher than a 4-star, because of what was lacking on Osprey's part in that match. I mean, to me, Kushida shined. He is very well rounded. He showed his striking, his high flying, his technical. All of that came out, and it was great. And we got the same Osprey that we usually get with a little bit of character work. I guess you want to call it that. I don't know. It was super annoying to me. Maybe it's just me not liking him or whatever. But the screaming and the nasty language and then the flipping him off for whatever reason, it came off very douchey. And
Okay.
I wasn't really a fan because I thought he was supposed to be like this uber baby face. And I'm like, what are you doing? This is weird. But that's just me nitpicking, so whatever. But yeah, I wasn't I don't agree with the 5-star rating because of the lack of selling on Osprey's part and the things I've already mentioned. But
Okay.
it was a very good match.
I will say this: the stuff that you referred to as douchey, I kind of liked it. I'm not gonna lie. I like the charisma. I like that's what was lacking. I don't care for the screaming when he's selling and stuff like that. To me, that's just so over the top and
Oh
unnecessary.
yes, it really is.
But I do like it when he adds another layer to who he is, because when I see Will Ospreay, aside from ninja karate flippity flop stuff. And I know people aren't going to like hearing that because it's going to remind them of that Randy Orton tweet. But, let's be honest. That opening section where they did the flip and then they stare at each other in the center of the ring, every Will Ospreay match seems to start with that exact same sequence of moves.
And if it doesn't start with it, it comes just a little bit later, but it's going to be there.
Yeah, exactly. And I like that sequence of moves. Don't get me wrong, it's cool. But it's like everything is better in moderation. And when you continue to throw the same style of match, the same sequence of moves at me, I'm not, I understand wrestling a style, but, people complain so often about John Cena having the 5 moves of doom. Well, Will Ospreay kind of has the same sort of pattern sequences to his matches, and it's starting to throw me off. I'd like to see more technical wrestling ability, and I don't know why we keep having this guy sell limb work, because to me, it's the one thing he just can't do well. He
cannot do it.
He took like a top rope arm breaker and then 20 kicks to the shoulder, and a few minutes later he was like, "Oh, it's all good, man. No worries. Can't do it." Like if you want to have a showcase style of match, the kind of match that Ospreay is so accustomed to having, don't do the limb work. That's all I'm going to say.
I couldn't agree more, and that to me is the reason why that match is not a 5-star match. Yeah. I don't think you can have a 5-star match when you have something like that. I mean, Kushida worked on his arm and leg for like half of that match. And because Ospreay has to do his same sequences and same moves, he ignored that. And I noticed it right away, and it took me out of the match. And I'm not a fan of that at all. At all.
I agree. I don't know if we notice it because it's something that we look for, but unfortunately, yeah, it throws me off. Just as his overdramatic selling of every little thing that happens to him, like especially when he's trying to actually sell that, he doesn't do a good job of it. So it's like a double negative for me. He's so much better when he's executing his offense than when he is trying to sell moves. But that being said, I do want to give some credit to Ospreay because, like I said, in this match, he showed a little bit more of his personality. And I will say this for the kid, I think he has a bright future, and I can't wait to see what he does. But I just think he needs more experience before they saddle him with more responsibility in that division. But Will Ospreay definitely has all the tools necessary to be a star in the future. All right, so enough Best of the Super Juniors. Let's give the people what they came here for. This coming Sunday, Osaka-jo Hall, New Japan brings you its historic Dominion event live on New Japan World. Every title in New Japan Pro Wrestling will be on the line. Mm-hmm. So let's just go down the line, Monroe. Start with the never open-weight 6-man tag team title gauntlet match, which was just recently added to the card. Looks like it's going to be a very, very interesting match. We've got Los Ingobernables de Japón defending against 4 different teams, including Taguchi Japan, Chaos, the Bullet Club, and Suzuki-gun. So this is kind of like a semi-battle for faction supremacy. So what do you see shaking in this one?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm going to be a little biased, but LIJ forever and always.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, that's who I'm picking to win this one for sure. I mean, evil is everything. Everything is evil. So there you go.
Looking at this one thing that stands out to me personally is the fact that Zack Sabre Jr. is in it. And Taichi and Kanemaru, too, both had strong showings in the Best of the Super Juniors tournament. So if there's a team I see as a threat here, I'm actually going to go with Suzuki-gun. I think that with their heelish shenanigans, they might be able to pull off a win. But personally, I'm hoping they don't, only because right now, with the amount of times this never open-weight 6-man tag title has already changed, it's almost becoming a joke. Actually, in my opinion, it is a joke. And they need to establish a team as kind of the dominant team for these 6-man titles because it's going to help that belt in the long run. And I think that LIJ is the right team for it because with Naito at the top and Takahashi right next to him, You got these three guys. They are in my opinion, the strongest faction in New Japan right now. So the belts belong to them. They're in the right spot.
Absolutely.
Next match on the card is the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team title match between my favorite team, Roppongi Vice, and the Young Bucks. Who do you got in this one?
Was that sarcasm?
Yeah, that was total sarcasm.
I picked Roppongi Vice retaining, and for my notes, I put I don't know and I don't really care.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you. No, for sure. Yeah, so you're not too into the idea of the Young Bucks?
No, I don't like the Young Bucks. I mean, I know people say, they're the best, whatever. I get it. They're funny. Cool. Not a fan. I don't think they are nearly as great as people say they are. At least I don't, in my opinion, of course. And I don't care much about Roppongi Vice either. I'm sorry.
Yeah. See, I'm not a huge fan of Roppongi Vice, but I do like the Young Bucks. I think that even though they do a lot of spots, lots of super kicks, and I don't really care for all that, I'd much rather see them as junior tag team champions, because to me, who's better? Who do they have that's a better tag team for that division? I don't know. One thing I was going to point out about the Best of the Super Juniors tournament was going in, a lot of people were commenting about how deep the junior division was in New Japan. Mm-hmm. I think it was kind of exposed that it wasn't as deep as most people thought it was. And that's why they have to call in gaijins like the Jackson Bros in order to beef up the division. So personally, I'd really like to see New Japan invest some time in reestablishing this division. And I think that even though the Young Bucks are foreign talent, with New Japan making its way over to America for the G1 specials, I think it's going to be the Young Bucks who carry the gold in. And that will kind of segue us into our next match, because I happen to think it's going to be somewhat of a Bullet Club evening at Dominion. And that is the IWGP Tag Team title match between my boys War Machine and the Gorillas of Destiny. Personally, I think that even though this big part of me really wants to see War Machine pull this one off, because, God, this team has impressed me so much over the past couple months. I've become huge fans of the guys. I look forward to all of their matches now, especially Hanson. That guy is just a straight badass.
Yes, he is.
I really do think that it's going to be Bullet Club's evening, and I think I'm going to go with the challengers, Tangaroa and Tama Tonga, taking the titles once again. I think it's going to be their third reign in this match. How about you?
Yeah, I picked the same. I am a huge War Machine fan. Those guys have it all, in my opinion. I can't get enough of them. I cannot. But I do think the Gorilla Destinies, I think they're going to take the titles.
Yeah.
That's who I got to. Should be a good match.
Yeah, it's going to be probably one of the better matches of the evening, possibly a show stealer. Although, gosh, you get deeper into this card and it just gets better. And I really do think that a lot of these matches are going to be kind of preludes for what happens come the G1 specials.
Yeah, I agree.
So that being said, moves us into our special singles match of the evening between two American talents. Well, actually, one Canadian, if I'm not mistaken. Michael Elgin and Cody. Not Cody Rhodes, because we can't say that now.
Right.
I want to find a reason to care about this match, but unfortunately I can't. And after seeing, because I just went back and watched Wrestle Kingdom 11, after seeing Michael Elgin's post-match promo that he cut after Naito's match, he interrupted Naito's promo and cut a promo on him. Promos everywhere. I really want Elgin to just take Cody out and end this, because I don't want to see Cody anywhere near the top of the card. And I think that this is where that starts for him, unfortunately. So I think Cody's going to win the match, but I really hope he doesn't. How do you feel about this one?
I definitely think Cody is winning. and I think it may have something to do with the U.S. title that they're bringing. Um, I can see him actually in the running for that.
Unfortunately, I can too. The New Japan Purocast guys that I listened to suggested Cody Rhodes versus Kazuchika Okada for the IWGP Heavyweight Championship in the G1 Specials. Yeah, let's not do that. That's where I'm at with that one.
Yeah, no, let's not do that.
And gosh, I don't know what the belief. I don't know what Ghetto's thinking when it comes to Cody. Maybe he just thinks he has a good look, but for me, he doesn't do it. And well, whatever. But he just doesn't do it for me. Elgin to me has more of the prototypical pro wrestling look. He's a badass. He's a beast. And in the ring, I'd say he's light years better than Cody. Sorry.
I agree.
So yeah, well, we'll just move on from that one.
Yeah.
And that brings us to one of our bigger matchups of the evening, a rematch from Wrestle Kingdom 11. Hiromu Takahashi, the ticking time bomb, taking on Kushida. Yeah. Who do you got in this one?
Takahashi, always, forever. I will never choose against him. That guy is the greatest.
Really? Not even in this case?
Not even in this case. I'm sorry. Even though Kushida...
Is that bias speaking? Is that bias speaking, or is it just your opinion?
Oh, that is absolutely biased.
Okay.
I love this guy. I cannot get enough of Takahashi. He is the best. I mean, like I said, I more than likely Kushida will win.
Okay.
But and Takahashi probably go into bigger and better things, which I'm not mad at. But yeah, I'm just gonna choose Takahashi just because I can. I love him.
Yeah, personally, I'm hoping that Kushida does win this match. That is to say, I guess, during the match, I'll be rooting for Takahashi. But if Kushida wins, I'll say, okay, this is a good thing. Because, in my opinion, like you said, bigger and better things should be on the way for Takahashi. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping those bigger and better things involve Hiroshi Tanahashi and the IWGP Intercontinental title. Our next match is the Never Openweight title match, which is a lumberjack death match. If you are new to New Japan, don't get your hopes up because it's not going to be any kind of death match. It's just basically a lumberjack match, but it's still going to be absolutely incredible because it features my favorite New Japan pro wrestler, Minoru Suzuki. And he is going to be defending the Never Openweight title against Chaos's Hiroki Goto. I don't know which way they're going to go with this match. I'd really like to see them keep the title on Suzuki because, in my opinion, he is the perfect guy for that title. And they need to kind of keep that on somebody for a while because, if I'm not mistaken, Goto just lost it. And so all of these titles are starting to feel like hot potatoes in New Japan. And with the introduction coming of another championship, they need to have more well-established champions, in my opinion. I think it would benefit the image of all these titles in general. So I hope Suzuki wins, but I could see where the lumberjack rule plays to Chaos, plays to the faces. That being said, it also could play to Suzuki-gun. Mm-hmm. We shall see. What do you think is going to happen, Monroe?
Yeah, I was torn with this one. I don't know which way it's going to go. I initially picked Goto to get it back. But I'm not sure. And I can't really think of, as far as the story goes, I don't know which way. I don't know. Right. I don't know. But I'm going to stick with Goto, I think. I think he's going to get it back for some reason, which I don't know. I really don't know.
Well, the one thing that made, because see, I'm torn about it too because for some reason they're not bringing Suzuki to America for the G1 specials. Mm. And if you want to bring all the gold over, you put it on Goto because Goto is coming over. At the same time, didn't he just lose the title? And I know it was by, kind of a shady finish, but at the same time, that's what Suzuki's all about. That's what Suzuki-gun's all about. And I feel like if you want to give the never openweight title an identity, I think Minoru Suzuki would be better suited to actually give that belt an identity. It would kind of be like the more catch wrestling, MMA style fighting match belt than a traditional pro wrestling belt, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does.
So we'll see. Should be interesting. I always look forward to Minoru Suzuki matches. He is the best heel in professional wrestling, in my opinion. Well, I guess you could argue that with this next match and the title holder, the IWGP Intercontinental Championship match between the 15th champion Tetsuya Naito taking on the ace Hiroshi Tanahashi. What do you think is going to happen in this one?
I am a huge Naito fan. You know this. I'm sorry, but I think Naito may be the top heel for me right now. And with that being said, I think Tanahashi is going to win. But I think that only because Naito, I feel, will be
G1
to the G1 winner or moving up to the heavyweight title picture soon. So
makes a lot of sense.
That's the main reason why I picked Tanahashi to win. But I love Naito so much. He is the greatest. I don't think he wants a title anymore. You know, I don't think.
No, I don't think he does either with the way he's treating it. Jeez.
Yeah, I don't think he cares that much about it. So let's just take it off from him.
Do you think if Tanahashi wins, or maybe Naito relinquishes the title? I've heard a lot of different scenarios that can come out of this match. Do you think there's going to be a new Intercontinental Championship? A physical title, a new championship?
There are a lot of titles right now. And with the addition of the U.S. title, I think they may take away one, and I think that may be the one. I think they're going to get rid of the IC title. Maybe that's why he broke it. I don't know.
Interesting. I'd be all for that, actually.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to happen there. Maybe Naito will retire it, or maybe Tanahashi will be like, he'll win it and be like, look, let's just put this away so it won't get hurt again. I don't know. But I think the U.S. title is definitely going to shake some things up, and I think it's going to retire the IC title. So I'm not really sure which way they're going to go.
Part of me hopes it doesn't, because I really like that title, and I feel like it's had a lot of prestige. I feel like it's been one of the championships that's been almost on the same playing field as the IWGP Heavyweight title, and so, and I feel like it's kind of synonymous with Shinsuke. And that's why they feel like they have to take it away, because he's not there anymore. But I'd almost rather they didn't. And I almost wish they weren't bringing in another championship because of that. Mm-hmm. Who knows? It's a paradox to me as well how Naito just abuses the hell out of that belt and shows no respect to the company. And yet that guy is probably the most overact in the entire place right now. I mean, it's ridiculous to me. I don't know. This match is hard to call. Like I said earlier, I'm kind of hoping Takahashi moves up and challenges Tanahashi after this match. So I guess that means by default I'm going with Tanahashi to beat Naito. But it really all depends on what they're going to do with the IC title. If they're planning on retiring it, then yeah, definitely have Naito just win and put the belt away. Maybe have him put it in a trash can and light it on fire or something.
Yeah. Throw it in a river or something.
Yeah, throw it in a river. Right. Yeah.
That'd be great. That'd be so great.
Callback. Great. Yeah, so moving on, the crown jewel of the evening, the match that I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be talking about the most this next weekend, probably for a long time afterwards. Mm-hmm. Kazuchika Okada defending the IWGP Heavyweight Championship against the cleaner Kenny Omega in the second match of their already famed rivalry. I just went back and watched the match at Wrestle Kingdom with JR on commentary, and it was still kind of just one of those matches where a lot of people liked it, and I unfortunately was not one of them. I wish that match was split into two different matches because, man, the first half was great and the second half was great, but to me there was no need for it to be that long. It got to the point where it was just too much for me. And I've said that ever since I first saw it, and it hasn't changed. I'm hoping they don't try and do one of those again. I've heard some people speculating that it's going to be a 60-minute time limit draw. Whew, that would be a lot of wrestling. I don't know how I'm going to feel about that. So my approach to this match is basically going to be just kind of sit back, take it in, and see where it goes. I've heard Omega talking about wanting to tell a different story in this match. I hope he does. I think that's interesting because there is a different story that needs to be told. And if there's anybody who has been good at that in the past, it is Omega. His G1 run was freaking awesome. And so I think that this series of matches should only get better. And there's a lot of things at play here when it comes to picking a winner. That being said, I think the determining factor is the G1 specials in the United States. And for that reason, I think that they are going to crown a new IWGP Heavyweight Champion at Dominion in Kenny Omega. But we'll get to this a little later because I have a question I want to ask you. But I'm not too thrilled about that, so we'll get to that later. What do you think is going to happen in this match, Monroe?
I really hope the 60-minute thing isn't true. That is a long, long match. And I know these two people are great. You have to be in order to keep people that interested in the match that long. But I really hope that's not the case. I agree with you. The first one was kind of long. I think it would have definitely been a 5-star match for me if it was a little bit shorter. But because it wasn't, and other issues too, it definitely wasn't a 5-star match for me. But it was a very good match. Let me throw that out there. As far as their second outing, I think Omega's finally going to win this one. I think he's going to be the one to dethrone Okada. I don't know how I feel about that because I'm not a huge Omega fan. I don't know. I was kind of hoping it would be Naito instead.
Me too.
But
yeah. I think right now, Omega. To me, Naito just feels like the right guy. He's the hottest act in the company. And you know what? Before we close this out, I wanted to ask you this question. Regardless of whether Kenny Omega actually captures the IWGP Heavyweight Championship this Sunday or not, do you think, and this is a two-part question, do you think Kenny Omega is loyal to New Japan and plans to carry the flag for them until the company is a player in the global wrestling market? And if you are booking this show, can you in good faith crown Kenny Omega as your champion, knowing that there is a chance that he could jump ship somewhere in the future?
You and I have talked about this before, and I will say that I still think, and you say jump ship is no secret that we're talking about the WWE here. I do think that is the end game still for a lot of people. They all want to end up there. I firmly believe that. With that being said, I do think Kenny Omega will eventually end up in the WWE. Now, is that going to be anytime soon? I sincerely don't think so. I do think right now he is pretty loyal to New Japan. I do think right now he does want to prove that he can be great, which he kind of already is. He can do all these things, become legendary without the WWE. I know he said something like that before, and I really do think he wants to, reach those goals. So yeah, I do think he's pretty loyal to New Japan. Would I crown him if I was booking the company? Unbiasedly, yes, I would, because Omega is hot right now. I mean, he may not be the hottest in the company, but he's still very, very over and very popular.
It would be the smart move, right? Yeah.
It would be, because I feel like a loss would really hurt him. It would really hurt him if he lost to Okada. So I think crowning him would definitely help him, elevate him, and it makes the most sense to me. So, I would crown him for sure.
Is this the right time to be having this match?
Is this the right time?
Do you think?
What do you mean?
Well, Omega has stated in interviews before this match already that he believes this match is rushed and that it's not the right time. This was too early to have the rematch. Do you agree with
Really?
that?
Wow. I mean, the first one was in what, January, early January, so I can see that. I can see how it being too soon. Yeah, I could see that. Do I agree? Mm. Actually, yes, I do. And we've talked about this before, and it's probably because, I'll admit I don't follow it as much as you do, or I'm not, I don't know half as much as you do about it. But from what I've seen, as far as the build up for this match goes, to me, it's been lacking. And I know there's a video on YouTube, whatever. There's a story there. I get
Absolutely.
it.
Oh
I
no, I
get it.
totally agree.
But I don't feel like for such a high profile match that this is supposed to be, I don't feel like the build up for it or, the whatever you want to call it for it has been enough. And it deserves more. So yeah, I actually agree with Tim with that.
Now, I think the arc here, the story arc, goes beyond just, you can't just say, like, you can't chop the two matches into different segments here. I think you have to include the entire prelude to Wrestle Kingdom, the Wrestle Kingdom match itself, and everything that happened afterwards as a part of this story. And even still, with that being said, you're right. I feel like, at least over the past few months, Omega's rise back to the IWGP Heavyweight Championship was not as strong as it should have been. He kind of just had one match with Ishii, and they were like, okay, now you're going to challenge for the title. And yeah,
Which I
that
felt
match with
bad
Ishii
for.
was freaking awesome. I
I
love
felt
that match.
bad
That's on my
for.
list. That's number 3. That match was freaking amazing. But yeah, I think it is a little too soon, and I don't think that the build has been necessarily stellar. Now, they're going to have a match this week, but is one match really enough to sell this monster of a feud again? I don't know. I think it's kind of rushed. It feels like they're trying to rush the belt onto Omega in order to prepare for the G1 specials. And personally, if I'm going to answer the questions that I posed to you, I don't think you can trust Omega. If I'm New Japan, I don't want another champion to be crowned who's just going to eventually show up in WWE like Shinsuke Nakamura, like AJ Styles. That's why I want Tetsuya Naito to win the G1 and challenge Okada at Wrestle Kingdom. And I know that eventually, if Omega does happen to win, Okada could win the title back, right? And they could still have that match. And everybody seems to think that's the plan. So my question is it worth selling the seats in, Long Beach for to put Omega, to give the belt to Omega? I don't know. They've already sold the tickets, so you could just have Okada win here, carry the belt in, and face someone like Cody. And I think maybe long term that's a better booking decision for the image of the company, because when Nakamura and Styles and Devitt left, it kind of cast this light on New Japan like they were secondary. And if they want to be looked at as a legit competitor with WWE, I don't think you want WWE to continue. I don't think you want your champions, at least, to be these guys that WWE is just going to keep poaching. So that's why Naito, a guy who has already come out and said, New Japan, you wrestle in a New Japan ring, you are at the forefront of professional wrestling. I think when you make a statement like that, not I want to face AJ Styles, when you say New Japan's the place to be, that's the guy I want to give the title to. So if Omega does happen to beat Okada, I understand it short term. Long term, I think it might not end up looking like the smartest move. But again, we'll have to see. Omega hasn't hit the one-winged angel yet. I think that's going to be the story that they tell in this match. It's It's going to be a good one. I can't wait to see what shakes down this Sunday. That's going to be, all eyes are going to be on that match.
Definitely.
So again, you can watch all of this live on New Japan World for just about as much as the WWE Network. Do not miss out. It's going to be on 2 a.m. Central Time here, so that's what... I don't really know the Eastern and Pacific times, but yeah, so it's 2 a.m. Central. Monroe, thank you for joining me tonight. Go ahead and let our lovely listeners know where they can find you on the interwebs.
I am on the Twitter machine, as our friend Tom would say, at @EofTheS_ENT. And I also have somewhat of a YouTube channel at Eye of the Storm Entertainment.
Fantastic.
And you can find us online at Ringside Geeks. My name is John.
You can find me on Instagram at John Neave, JohnNeave. And that's going to do it for us here at Ringside Geeks with our first ever Ringside Mini. Thank you all for joining us. We will be back with a full episode of Ringside Geeks later this week, so keep your ears peeled. And again, thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.